Hello everyone, I hope you guys are doing well. So, we are discussing questions related to English literature, and this is the first question in front of you. These are the lines taken from a poem written by these writers, one of these writers, and you need to tell me who of these poets have said these lines. Throw away thy rod, throw away thy wrath, O my God, take the gentle path. These lines are taken from the poem written by George Herbert. So Herbert is the option, John Donne, Crashaw, or Vaughan. Who said these lines? Throw away thy rod, throw away thy wrath. So this is a phrase that comes from a poem. It comes from a poem called as Discipline. Okay, it is a poem taken, it is a line taken from the poem Discipline, and it was written by George Herbert. It was written by George Herbert. So here, just to give you a gist, this rod basically is symbol of God's punishment. What is it? It is symbolic to God's punishment, while wrath here is symbolic of God's anger. Right? The plea is for God to relinquish these instruments of punishment and adopt a more gentler and a more compassionate approach. So what the poet here is saying, Herbert here is trying to say that God should leave giving punishment as well as having wrath on everyone else, and God should become more compassionate in his approach, right? The poet basically here is trying to explore the complexities of what? Human weakness. He is talking about human weakness, right? And the need for the divine grace and forgiveness. So he wants God to show forgiveness to this human, that is the one who can do a lot of faults, can do a lot of wrong deeds. He acknowledges human fallibility. He says that human is definitely fallible. We are all flawed. हमसे काफ़ी सारी गलती होती हैं, right? But also expresses a deep desire for God's love and mercy. This phrase resonates that there is, so this actually shows that how religious this poem was, right? So this poem was the poem written by George Herbert called as Discipline, right? So when we talk about George Herbert, we understand that in fact all these writers that are there in front of you, you'll understand that these writers are whom? They are all related to metaphysical school of poetry, isn't it? So they are all related to metaphysical school of poetry. What exactly is a metaphysical school of poetry? So what do you mean by meta? Meta means beyond, isn't it? Meta means beyond. As well as, what do you mean by physical? Physical here stands for the physical nature. The physical nature. So all these poets who were considered as the metaphysical school of poets, they were what? They were writing poetry that was beyond the physical nature. It was Dryden who gave the word metaphysical and who coined and used the term metaphysical poets. And it was Dr. Johnson. It was Johnson who approved this. In fact, it is not in the praise, but it was in a very bad manner to condemn them that this phrase was given. It was John Donne who became the pioneer of this way of writing. So it was not a group, but a way of writing. They were called as the metaphysical school of poets. The metaphysical school of poets. They all had similar ways of writing. They usually use conceits. ये क्या करते थे? They were using conceits that was far-fetched views of reality दिखाने के लिए. They used to use symbols. For example, a compass is used. This compass say is a male and this is a female part, and as the compass moves, so the male can move but still will come back to the female. So these are so compass here, compass is compared to what? Compared to love. So these are conceits. Far-fetched examples were used. They were very bold in their writings. They use a lot of similes, a lot of conceits. Not only this, imagery. A lot of sexual imageries were created. It is said that when Donne was writing, women used to read, during those times. And when women used to read, they fainted. So when Donne used to write and when women used to read Donne, they faint because he was writing in such a crude manner. They were also using paradoxes. They were using what? They were using paradox. Okay, so there were multiple ways in which they were writing. They were writing poetry on the themes of love, then sexuality, religion, of course, is a major theme in which they were writing. So Donne started started the tradition of metaphysical school of poetry, but there were others who followed him. Who all were the other writers? So we have Marvell. After him, Andrew Marvell joined him. We have Henry Vaughan. Then we also have Herbert. So his name is George Herbert, as well as Richard Crashaw. So these are the poets who are termed as the metaphysical school of poets. The poetry is inspired by the philosophical concept of the universe and the rule of the human spirit as the great drama that we play, that is existence. How funny is it that we are existing in this world and all these conceits are there to describe the way we live. So over elaborated similes लिख के ये क्या करते हैं? The figure of speech are excessively used, and they are so excessively used that according to Dryden as well as Johnson, ना ही ये emotional blend कर पाते थे and ना ही they were able to do the metaphysical blend or the physical blend. So they were somewhere in between. That is why they were not good poets. So in the entire century, and in fact after they were writing, Johnson as well as Dryden kept on laughing on them and critiquing them. But it was T.S. Eliot who wrote this essay, The Metaphysical School of Poets in the 19th century, and praised these writers. He said that these writers have unification. They have what? They have unification of sensibility. They have what? They have unification of sensibility. While before these writers, every poet used to have disassociation of sensibility. They were not writing physical works, they were not writing religious works, but they were the one who are going to combine sensual, that means emotional aspects, along with what? Along with physical qualities as well. So they are showing unification of sensibility. Right? I hope this is clear. So all of these concepts are brought together. A lot of concepts, complexities, arguments were made about during the way in which they were, you can say, they were writing. So John Donne is very famous for the work Valediction forbidding mourning. Okay, this is a very important work. The Flea के अंदर there is this poem called as The Flea. You know how you can say how stupid the conceits were, but how beautifully he has portrayed. So the lovers used to sleep here, है ना? ऐसे they are these lovers who are sleeping and there is this flea over their head. So सबसे पहले इसने किसी मेल को बाइट किया, है ना? और यही उसके बाद उसने उस फीमेल को बाइट किया. So now the male is going to say to the female that we can have love because we have already, we can just sleep together because in the flea, in the body of the flea, our blood is already one. So let us come together, let us join together, let us sleep together and become one. Let us have, let us smash together. Why? Because we are already one. So this is a masterpiece that Donne has written. Donne is also famous for his elegies, for his sonnets, but of course, when it comes to using conceits and writing metaphysical school of poetry, he was one of the most important writer. Though Andrew Marvell after that also wrote beautiful works using ecstasy as a motive, the others were also very important. Donne is given the most important position. Okay, let's go forward. The author of The Provoked Husband was. Who is the author of The Provoked Husband? Is it Etheridge, Colley Cibber? Is it Wycherley or Vanbrugh? So Comedy of Manners, है ना? यहाँ से आपको याद क्या आना चाहिए? Comedy of Manners. Who has written this restoration comedy called as Provoked Husband. So the term comedy of manners, as we all know, is referring to the dramatists who are writing in the Restoration age. Restoration age is the age when we see Charles the II coming back to the throne again. So we have Charles the II who was in exile France के अंदर. He was brought back to England. So England, firstly, we have this piece of land was ruled by Elizabeth I, isn't it? Elizabeth I was ruling. After Elizabeth I, we had James the I who ruled. That was the Jacobean period, the Jacobean era. It is the time when Ben Jonson wrote. Ben Jonson is writing all the plays and comedy of humors is associated with him. James the I was what? He was an absolutist. Who is an absolutist? A person who only thinks about himself. James the I is known as an absolutist because he thinks that king was as great as the god, and whatever I will say, you have to follow those things. Right? James the I also started a Bible. Do you know what is the name of that Bible? It was the authorized version of Bible. The authorized version of Bible. It was the first time when someone did such a enormous prose writing, right? And a lot of bishops came together, they wrote this work, and James the First became the first king under whom such a thing was done in England. He was making England as a nation who followed Anglicanism. The Church of England was the one that was being propagated. After that, we had what? We had Charles. We had Charles the I who came on the throne. Charles the I was even more rude. He was even more rude. He was even more of an absolutist. What he did, he introduced tax acts. वो क्या करते थे? Tax acts करते थे. So Charles the I was a really stupid king, I would say. He wanted to have a war with the Dutch people. He took the money from the treasury. तो उन्होंने क्या किया? जितने भी ट्रेजर के अंदर किंग के पास जो मनी होती है उसे लिया और डच के पास वॉर करने चले गए. There was also what? Parliament. So till that time England had a king as well as a parliament. Parliament denied to Charles the I not to wage a war against Dutch because they will lose. They do not have a lot of equipments. They were not prepared. But he did what? He dissolved the parliament. Not only once, he dissolved the parliament 1, parliament 2, parliament 3 and parliament 4. Every time people elected a parliament, he did what? He dissolved it. So there was the parliamentarians got so angry that they warned Charles the I, and Charles the I became the first king who was beheaded. He was what? He was beheaded. इनका सर काट दिया गया था. He was the first king who was killed in the history of England. Okay. Charles the II was killed and his son, Charles the I was killed and his son ran away along with his wife to France for exile. For some time, it was what? It was Oliver Cromwell. Oliver Cromwell who ruled England. So, it was Oliver Cromwell who ruled England for some time. He never ruled as a king, but he ruled as a Lord Protectorate. He and his son, they ruled as Lord Protectorate, but during this time, Puritanism spread in England. What was Puritanism? They were extremely powerful, or you can say they were very staunch believers of Christianity. They never wanted anyone to go to church. They never believed in church. They said that apni khud ki Bible padho, never go to any church. And they were against all kinds of merriment. In fact, they stopped the 13-day Christmas festival also. England then realized that now it is getting out of our hands. We do not want to live like this, a life where it is very dull. The Puritans did what? They closed all kinds of entertainment. That means the theater was closed. There was no drama that was played for so many years. After some time, we see the Restoration age because Charles II from France was called. When he was living in France, French people used to live exaggerated life, lusty life, right? When Charles the One was brought into England, he got with himself the leisure and the promiscuous nature from France. He became the merry monarch under whom everyone became lusty. Now the plays that were written were called as the comedy of manners. The people were doing what? They were doing cuckoldry. They were extramarital affairs. The way in which marriage used to happen went down. Oliver Cromwell, there were so many different writers who were writing, and they were talking about how pathetic the society has become. They were laughing at the social conditions. They were laughing at the social conditions. Marriage was now not a holy institution but was like a contract. Mirabell and Millamant in the story of William Congreve do what? They actually have a contract marriage, right? So this is how the highly sophisticated world was laughed at. Women were, becoming very lusty. There were a lot of mistresses that people used to have. It is said that Charles II had about 100 bastard sons and 0 real son of his own, right? So this is what England was facing during that time. So these writers that are in front of you are all Restoration age writers, and they are very important. From this question, I wanted to talk about the Restoration age only. They will always ask you questions related to it. So the right answer here is D. It is Vanbrugh who wrote the work Provoked Husband. But all the writers are very important. Let me give you the names of the other comedy of manners writing wale writers जो हैं जो वो लिख रहे थे. So we have Sir George Etheridge, very important. Periods भी याद रखना, 1635 till 91. Sir George Etheridge is writing comedies, and he is writing comedy of intrigue, comedy of manner, a very fresh style. All his dramas were related to these things only. Love in a Wood is his work, very famous. Then we have The Gentleman Dancing, and mark my words, definitely they will ask questions related to it. Master, Gentleman Dancing Master. Then a very important work, The Country Wife. उससे भी ज़्यादा important एक और work है, The Plain Dealer. The Plain Dealer. These works are extremely witty, very, very witty. The atmosphere of The Plain Dealer is where you can see the Restoration comedy taking place. It is one of the most important work written. And what is your homework is please write the dates of these works, because ये works match the following या chronology में आते हैं. So Sir George Etheridge is the first writer. Then you have one of the most important comedy of manners ke writer, that is William Congreve. William Congreve. We have 1670 till 1729 as his time period. He is known for his comedies as well as a tragedy is also written by him, but comedy के लिए ज़्यादा famous है. What is the comedy? We have The Old Bachelor. The Old Bachelor. Then we have one of the most important work, The Way of the World, where you see Mirabell and Millamant having the provincial scene where a contract marriage is done. You will study about this work. Mirabell and Millamant. There is a provincial scene. बहुत ज़्यादा famous है. Okay. Then we have Vanbrugh. So Sir John Vanbrugh, the time period is 1664 till 1726. He is an English architect, was an English architect and a dramatist. And he wrote 2 argumentative, outspoken Restoration comedies. The Relapse, very important, as well as The Provoked Wife, which has become enduring stage favorites, but originally occasioned much controversy. He was knighted in 1714. His fragment of The Provoked Husband was completed by Colley Cibber. So actually it is only half a fragment that was written by Vanbrugh, and then it was Colley Cibber who completed it. Right? Colley Cibber then completed it. Then we have George George Farukher, 1678 till 1707. He has written again two very important words. Again, I'm telling you, that is recruiting officer. I will make a video for the restoration period. It is highly important from the examination point of view. And Buke's stratagem, right? These are his important works. So all of these writers are important, restoration comedy being a very important work. I hope it is clear to everyone. Okay. So it is Vanbrugh as well as Colley Cibber who wrote the work, the comedy. Okay. So Colley Cibber was also in the option, but सबसे पहले तो Vanbrugh ने लिखा था. And what is the subtitle, by the way? What if they ask this? What is the subtitle of the work? What is the subtitle? The full title is The Provoked Husband, or a Journey to London. ये भी याद रखना. Or a Journey to London. Okay. So Vanbrugh wrote a very, very popular work, The Provoked Wife, and after that this work was seen. So he reworked it subsequently, softening the character of Lady Love Rule, who was there in this work, and उसको happy ending देने के लिए फिर उन्होंने ये work start किया था, but he could not complete it. The play was a huge success, by the way. A very huge success. That time Drury Lane Theatre was struggling, and when this work was played, it became extremely successful. Another very successful play of this time was John Gay's work, The Beggar's Opera. ये लिंकन्स इन थिएटर के अंदर उन्होंने सबसे पहले प्ले किया था. Colley Cibber himself is an important writer. Colley Cibber is also an important writer. He was a poet laureate as well. He was what? He was a poet laureate. His colorful memoir is very important. अपने बारे में इन्होंने लिखा था, एक memoir कहते हैं उसको, work लिखा था. An apology for the life of Colley Cibber. This is a memoir for which he became very famous. In 1740 it came out. He wrote 25 plays. Drury Lane Theatre mein they were all published. They were all enacted, I would say. And he became very famous. As a playwright, he became famous. He has also written this work, Love's Last Shift. Love's Last Shift. Again an important work. Love's Last Shift 1696 का वर्क है. It was there in 1696. Now I can go on and on for metaphysical school of for these restoration playwriters. They are very important. Restoration writings are very important. After Charles II entered the scene, English literature changed. The way it was being written only about religion, it completely changed, and social situations became even more important. Okay, let's go forward. The term magic realism was first coined by, who coined the term magic realism? Hannah Arendt, Franz Raw, Jean Arp, or Peter Behrens? Who coined the term, or who used the term magic realism for the first time? Who introduced it? What exactly is magical realism? So it is a literary genre that blends realistic narratives with fantasy. Realism plus fantasy, you'll see together. For example, we have this very important work, 100 Years of Solitude. This is a work written by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. It's a supernatural work in a fictional town of Macondo. Important work. In fact, we also see the work Beloved using magical realism. This is a work written by our very dear Toni Morrison. Toni Morrison. They are good examples of magical realism. But who coined the term? So it is B, that is the right answer. The term magical realism first appeared in 1955. Although the term magister realismus, translated as magic realism, was first used by a German artist Franz Roh in 1925. It became a concept that was very famous in literature as well. Magic realism is an acceptance of magic in a rational world. It is also known as fabulism and marvelous realism. Marvelous realism. So Latin American literature के अंदर ये बहुत famous हो गया था. It was in Latin American literature that it became famous. Magic realism, marvelous realism. And it used various topics, they were combining mystery, methodology. They were also, mixing strange, uncanny behaviors with the real world. Let's go forward. The rhyming scheme of Shakespearean sonnet. Shakespearean sonnet. अब ये बहुत important है. Tell me about sonnets. Sonnets के बारे में आप मुझे बताओ. सबसे पहले कहाँ से sonnet आता है? Do you know? So it was from Italy that firstly we got sonnets. It was Petrarch who initially used it. And what is a sonnet? A 14-line lyrical poem. A 14-line lyrical poem is called as your sonnet. And it is written how? It is written, also remember, in iambic pentameter. In iambic pentameter. Iambic refers to foot, by the way. If you do not know, ये पता होना चाहिए. Iambic means foot, which is composed of a weaker syllable followed by an accented syllable. Pentameter refers to the number of feet in a line. And in this case, we have 5. Okay. So here, iambic is what? Iambic is weak followed by accented. A लिख देती हूँ इसके लिए, accented. Right? So it is from Italy. The writer Petrarchan sonnet सबसे पहले आए in Italy, and then it was the Shakespearean sonnet that became famous in England, in the English. Right? And Petrarchan sonnet, what is the structure of Petrarchan sonnets? So you have one octave. Octave means 8 lines. 8 lines with the rhyming scheme A, B, A, B, B, A, A, B, B, A. Right? Then you can have a sestet. That means 6 lines. Combine करके you have 14 lines. It can be C, D, C, D, C, D. Or it can be C, D, E, C, D, E. है ना? इसमें से कोई भी हो सकता है. So we have octave that gives you the idea of what the lyric poetry would be about, or it will talk about the problem. And the solution, the turning point, you can say answer, would be given in the sestet. So this is how Petrarchan sonnets were seen. Shakespearean sonnets had 3 quatrains. They had 3 quatrains and a couplet. A quatrain is simply 4-line stanza. Quatrain क्या होता है? 4-line stanza. A couplet is what? Same rhyme scheme for a couplet that is there, right? So you have a how it is written. What is the rhyming scheme? A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F. This is 3 quatrains. 3 quatrains, 4 lines. Okay. 1, 2 and 3. 3 quatrains, 4 lines. And couplet is GG. So this is how it was written. So right answer क्या हो जाएगा? Right answer would be A. It is A. That is right. Okay. So I hope this is clear. पेट्रियार्क ने इटली के अंदर सबसे पहले, it was in Italy that patriarch was writing. But then in England, we see Shakespeare using this and transforming the way in which sonnets were written. After that, we have Spenser also using sonnets. That will be Spenserian sonnets. I hope these small details which can be asked in your paper are clear to everyone. Let's go forward. So we have A as the right answer. In 1817 review of Coleridge's Biographia Literaria, Francis Jeffrey coined the term Lake School of Poets grouping. So who of the following are termed as Lake School of Poets? Wordsworth, Coleridge, Crabbe, Wordsworth, Coleridge, Byron, Wordsworth, Coleridge, Hazlitt, Wordsworth, Coleridge, Southey. इनमें से कौन से are termed as the Lake School of Poets? Again, very famous. It is a group of poets that is writing in English Romantic period. They are the English Romantic poets. So they are English Romantic poets. They are the Romantic poets. We have what? We have Samuel Taylor Coleridge, Wordsworth, and Southey as well. Southey as well. So we have D as the right answer. The Lake Poets is a group of poets and they were listed as poets who used to live in the Lake District of England during the beginning of the 19th century. They were mainly poets of the Romantic age. Okay, so according to the location, we have Wordsworth, Southey as well as Coleridge. They were the core members. They were living in the Lake District. Wordsworth, also remember Wordsworth and Coleridge combined wrote this work, Lyrical Ballads. I hope you know this. Lyrical Ballads, it's a key work that was done by the Lake poets. Right? We can move forward. When my love swears that she is made of truth, I do believe her, though I know she lies. The author of these lines is. Who is the author of these lines? Is it Philip Sidney, Edmund Spenser, Christopher Marlowe, or William Shakespeare? Take a minute. I'll give you 1 minute for this. When my love swears that she is made of truth, I do believe her. I do believe her, though I know she lies. Should we discuss? So, these are the lines that are taken from a sonnet. ये किससे लिया हुआ है? It is taken from a sonnet. Especially you can say it was sonnet 138. The poem explores the theme of deception and it is a sonnet written by William Shakespeare. So deception, trust, as well as the role of lies in love is the theme. Right? It is said that despite knowing his love, a person is likely to lie in love, creating self-fulfilling prophecy where both of them are going to perpetually lie. So this sonnet is part of Shakespeare's series of sonnet that is dedicated to the Dark Lady. We all know some are dedicated to this person W.H. and some to the Dark Lady. So this is associated to the Dark Lady. He believes her because he wants her to see him as a young, unworldly, as well as someone who loves her beauty, right? So here we have this beautiful statement, when my love swears that she is made of truth, I do believe her, though I know she lies. The word lie in the poem has double meaning, by the way. Both telling a lie and physical lying together. What is it? It is telling a lie and physically lying together. So it is having double meaning. The poem explores the theme of love as a seeming trust, where illusion of truth, innocence is more important than actual truth. You need to believe the other person. You know that the other person is lying to you, but you still believe in him or her. Shakespeare wrote this line in the sonnet 138. Spenser's The Shepherd's Calendar, published in 1579, was dedicated to what? Sir Sidney Bacon. So the Shepherd's Calendar is dedicated to whom? The Shepherd's Calendar is dedicated to whom? Okay, so the Shepherd's Calendar is dedicated to Sir Philip Sidney, a prominent figure in the English literature and a close friend of Spenser. So the poem, so see, the right answer is C. The Shepherd's Calendar is a series of poems that was written by Spenser, published in 1579 and considered to mark the beginning of the English Renaissance. What do you mean by Renaissance? The rebirth in literature. Spenser dedicated the poem to Sidney. This poem consists of 12 eclogues. Eclogues is what? One eclogue basically is a piece of poetry. 12 eclogues are there. Each eclogue is like a short pastoral poem. Each for 1 month. For every month there is a pastoral poem. It is modeled, this is also PYQ, ये पेपर में आ चुका है. It is modeled on Virgil's work and it is also containing allegorical references to Queen Elizabeth. The work was dedicated to Sir Philip Sidney, a patron of arts and a very close friend of Spenser. The poem talks in a very allegorical sense about Queen Elizabeth I, the virgin queen who never married because she was married to England. In fact, the Spanish Armada को defeat करके she was one of the most important figure during this time in England. So all the 12 eclogues are important, but the way in which it is written, it is modeled on how Virgil used to write. So Edmund Spenser became famous. He is best known for the work The Fairy Queen. Of course, The Fairy Queen is the most important work. That is an epic poem, a fantastical allegory celebrating the Tudor dynasty as well as Elizabeth I. Fairy Queen is important. The Shepherd's Calendar is another very influential work. So it is what? It is an epic poem. What do you mean by epic? Grander than life चीज के बारे में वो बताते हैं. So the first 3 books. So epic is a poem which has larger than life themes. They have larger than life characters. They have supernatural characters. It always starts in medias res. There are muses. There is invocation. So Spenser decided to write this in multiple books. The first 3 books of the Fairy Queen was published in 1590. The second set of 3 books published in 1596. Spenser originally indicated that he intended the poem to consist 12 books. So he wanted to write 12 books. So the version of the poem we have today is incomplete because he could not write these 12 books and only 6 were written. Despite this, it remains the longest poem in the English language. It is an allegorical work that somehow praises Queen Elizabeth I. Okay? These are the works that are very, very important. We can move forward. Though Spenser you will read in greater detail. Spenser has also written works like Amorati, then Epithalamion, Prothalamion. They are the wedding songs. Fairy Queen, of course, is important. Then he has written a view of the present state of Ireland, one essay that he has written. All of these things are important. Okay, this is the last question for today. Tell me which of the following points are correct regarding the direct method of teaching English in a classroom scenario. There is no interference of mother tongue. There is direct connection with the target language, English. Learners think in the target language and express in the target language. The teaching learning process is carried out in English. This method is useful in overcrowded classroom situation. This method is based on the principle of doing by learning. Doing by learning किसने बात की है? It is like hands-on learning method that John Dewey has talked about. So the right answer is A here. Statement A, B, C are correct regarding the direct teaching of English. Direct teaching of English happens when in direct method of teaching English, teachers have a direct instruction. Teacher आपको directly English में पढ़ाती है. English is L2. L1 is the language that you learn from home. This is the language that you are learning. English is the L2 language जो आप सीखने स्कूल आए हो, right? Only so we have indirect method of teaching English. Teachers have to instruct in English only and not in the mother tongue or any other language. There is a direct connection with the target language, English here. Learners think in the target language only and express in the target language. So there is no need of using Hindi here if Hindi is your mother tongue. You will always use English, the target language. English जो आपको सीखनी है is called as the target language. जो आपको बचपन से आती है it is called as the mother tongue. It is called as the mother tongue. The teaching learning process is carried out in English only, hence the correct answer becomes A. So there is no interference of mother tongue. Okay, A, B and C are true. In the direct view, in the direct method, you see only the direct language or the target language, English. Learners think also in English and teaching is carried out in English. So this method is useful for overcrowded classroom situation. ये सही नहीं है. Neither this method is working on the principles of learning by doing. Right? I will give you this question as your homework. Just have a look here, list 1 and list 2. Answer this in the comment section so that I get to know that किसी ने homework किया है. ठीक है? Thank you. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you in the next class. Bye.